and when I was starting out as an instructor, nobody puts you on a course. Nobody says, right, you're going to be an instructor course now, and you know this is the pipeline to go and do that. For me, it was very much a natural process. I'd already had a bit of experience, a bit of time teaching and training before, and I fitted naturally into it. I could present myself in a way that was palatable to a different, you know, all different types of audience. I was quite good at reading human terrain, in some respects. But in terms of like ideology and methods and drills and all of that sort of stuff, it's kind of up to me, or it was kind of up to me, to go out and search that stuff. And I acted more as a filter, so I'd absorb as much as I could from all different areas and aspects. And that's when I sort of bumped into GBRS by accident, really. And then the more you see, the more you understand, you kind of get an idea of what everyone else is doing. And you can start putting stuff in buckets like, right, okay, that's good, but not particularly relevant for what I need. Or, yeah, I like a little bit of that, but not necessarily all of it. So I can take that. And then ultimately, it was my job to distill all that information, to sort of package it up and then refine it a little bit and then add that to my own skill set. And then try and implement that, whether it's on a flat range or whether it's in a CQB environment or a breaching environment, whatever it might be. And that would be sort of artistic license on my part to sort of incorporate that into new methods of training, new ideas, new philosophies, all that type of stuff. So that's a very positive side of social media, I think, like, and just the internet in the tactical space as a whole. The caveat to that is that there's a lot of stuff out there that I'm not an advocate for, or I don't necessarily align myself with. But I'm fortunate enough to have got enough experience to be able to make up an educated opinion of myself on what I'm seeing out there. I think it's very important that you don't take everything that comes across your phone or your laptop or whatever it is as gospel, just because some dude said it on the internet doesn't mean you should be going out there and trying to implement that into a real world situation. I think you need to be mindful of that. And then it goes back to the mirror test, isn't it? It's like, I'm never going to put out anything that's directly corresponding or relating to skills, drills, TTPs and tactics that my unit have used for a number of reasons. But ultimately, like, that's squadron business, that's unit business.
Exactly.
And that doesn't need to be put out there. Now, there's a lot of stuff already in sort of, circulation, if it will. And you can just refine on little bits and pieces like that. Things like presentation of weapons and little bits and pieces that I'm sure we're going to get into in detail in the future. A lot of that is just my spin on it, or GBRS's opinion on it, if that makes sense. It doesn't necessarily mean that, and in anyone's opinion is, all it is it's that medium, isn't it, between sort of ignorance and knowledge. That's all it is. It's just, it sits somewhere in between. That's all an opinion is. And it's up for guys out there to look at it, take it, digest it themselves, implement it if they think so, or disregard it, But all you're trying to do is make a best effort to put stuff out there that is going to help people, that's going to help people be better soldiers, be better law enforcement officers, be better civilians, whatever it might be, whether you're a builder, whether you're a taxi driver, whatever it is. Just because it's, from a tactical context doesn't mean there's no application anywhere else.
Absolutely.
And I'm a firm believer in trying to sort of tie all that stuff in, what you do in the team room, or what you do in the gym, or what you do in the kitchen when you're making your food, whatever it might be. Like, all of those things they're all tied in. They're all tied into an end state, and that end state is trying to perform to the best of your ability at all times. And I think that's the sort of key message. And I think if you stick to that, and you don't dive into the ins and outs of specific unit tactics and all the rest of it, I think, I don't think that's a bad thing. So that's kind of my take on it. That's how I sort of understand it and sort of make it work in my brain. Does that make sense to you, mate?
It does. It actually does. There's a saying, DJ, I think DJ got it from someone else, and it's like amateurs talk tactics.
Yep.
Professionals talk logistics.
Yeah. Exactly that. And
right?
tactics that I've used and implemented, like it would be very naive. And I think it would show a poor level of instruction if you're just trying to implement something that you know and give that to everybody else and bend everyone else's to your will. I think that's a very narrow-minded way of doing business.
Yeah.
I personally like to look at whatever a guy or whatever a unit or whatever a tactic might be, and then just add my flavor to it. And again, it's only there as an opinion. I'm just offering you options that you may or may not take. I can show you the pros and cons for what you're doing. I can show you another way of doing it and the pros and cons for that. And ultimately, nobody's to say either is the right answer. Sometimes you just got to figure out what works for you. It's all about like how you're getting to your end state. Now, I'm just going to try, hopefully, and offer a few more tools, a few more methods that help you achieve what you need to achieve.
Right.
But I don't need to bend you to my syllabus or my way of thinking, because that's a closed-minded way of looking at it. And I've had instructors in the past that it's almost like, if you don't do it my way or the highway type mentality. And I've always walked away thinking, questionable.
Well, we briefly talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we touched on it, didn't we?
There's instructors that are like, hey, you got to do it this way.
Yeah.
You got to do it that way. And it's like, or give them options.
Yeah, exactly. I see how you're doing it, so I'm going to give you a couple of things to optimize that way.
Right.
And now that you've got that, and that's what you've always done, how about having another option to do it? Now have a play with that. Does that work for you? Okay, you kind of like it. All right, explore a little bit further.
Yeah.
But in order for that philosophy as a trainer to work, you need to have students that have got an open mind.
This is true.
Because if you turn up and the students are of a closed mind, or potentially they might come from a certain place where tactics are dictated, there's no real wiggle room on that. They can't really have that artistic sort of flair in order to try and change new things. And I completely understand that. That's where your job as an instructor steps up. Now you have to kind of go, right, okay, these are the parameters. We've got set parameters in which we can train, in which we can learn. And, the end state ultimately is generally the same no matter who you're working with. Mm-hmm. But if that is the case and those things are in place, then you need to pull from your experience, your depth of knowledge.
Right.
Things that you may have seen other guys do or other guys teach. It doesn't always have to be, something that you've come up with. You don't always have to reinvent the wheel. You can just sort of pass that information along as like, okay, yeah, well, I was working with a similar group of guys with a similar bunch of constraints, and we tried this on the range, or we tried this in the house, and actually it was quite effective. So here's another option. Mm-hmm. It's up to you if you use it. But I think just that passage of information and just spreading a bit of awareness here and there, just sometimes it doesn't need to be much. You're not trying to reinvent the wheel, or I'm not trying to rewrite a training syllabus for a unit or an individual. I'm just simply putting out a few things that guys can take or leave. Mm-hmm. That's the best way of doing it, I think.
Yeah.